Scano Swaguego. My cousin Matt couldn't make it today, so he had asked me to come and fill in his position here doing the Thanksgiving address in the Cayuga language. And before we get started, I'll just do a little bit of explaining of what this Thanksgiving address means to us. When we get together in big gatherings like this, and a lot of people come from all over, we just do this either, it could be a very lengthy one, depending on the speaker. And today I'll just do a short of which could be a lengthy opening address, but what it does is it acknowledges everybody coming in from all over, all different kinds of people, and it also goes on beyond that to the earth and everything the Mother Earth holds. So like from right to the grass all the way up to the things in the sky like the thunders, the sun, the moon, the stars, and beyond. And so I'll do a short opening, and you can get started. And I just ask if anybody has a hat on, just to remove it, just out of respect for the language. And down as what Tonsi Yost and then young with doggy, Nini got do again, a wado, and got Nico hot. And Nini wong your way sa, Nignani, Guego, Scano, and got Nico Hadino. And Niguatone, Ona, and what the Wayanoni, and did what at Honyo, and then young with doggy, ne also Scano ega, and the new way who what Nishine start again, you talk Nani Hungwani go up. And Ona, and what true we say, when's day, they need one no heart that one hunqua. And ton home way, Hoyan to uncle, Heke Handro, and they oi Hogwe go get, and they Scano, the young Godawani. And ne how we oh, needs and honyo when the card, ne go get, don't Hoyan to own hunt the one crahno. And ne how we oh, ne or not ne danyo, don't anger, not the on his honk, or when the gate, the young Godawani. And ne ha neat, kay ne san honyo when the card, how we oh, ne hate ga, and yo hawk. And ne ona, and what the wayano need to know hanyo, sa ho that hoyan to own, sa when the day, ne go to ne, we go, sa ni ha, and ona. Skadi deity wait no need to know when you ha or when the date but no heart did one home quat. Nan the new way who what nishin it start again your tongue now hung what go ha. And down to guadi no with one yard so how that hoyan to on sa gong ya doggies. And down ne got to again so how that got the wine duck go now wado gain can squaggy. Dot kayi had the wayan oni. Ne how you to no so how that hoyan to on sa when the day. And ne how we oh ne hadai hondonyo na wado gain can squaggy. Ne you get to ne it is so had the on the gates ne he got quan squay ne tenataqua ne had the one on the gates. And ne oi humana so that had the wine duck. And took it to hand ne and the car qua gates ne said watch out said one hung qua. Sky hand ne or not sky hand ne or not ne Daniel. Oi Magwe or not ne Daniel was oi humana so that high wine duck. Ne wong your way side or some hoi ways tongue gates so that's a going home. Ne had to finish a gate to some what take tani hunk. Ne to din hon the with duck scano the young Godawany ne was chihwa. The young Godawany hug, Nanto, when the gate, ton honan, the young was the Gendra, he got guego. That Kai had ne, Wado, a so he caught neat targets, ne it is so dear Tinonqua. That Kai had ne or not ne Daniel, ne had ne oi Hoana, Sahodat, so going home, go hit the hand drum. That Kai had ne, Sahodat, Hoyan Twan, a tuck dying targets, Namado, or Gison Dasha, second hit targets, ne had ne it is so dear Tinonqua. And that guy had ne or not ne Daniel, so how that on a chon quat no. Dan ne one ne tangos the Jidwayandi, so how that got doga, so going home. Ne which is on the shop. And down and what the way no need dear. Ne scarred got doga, scarred deity wait no ne. Guego deity no on your heart, na gain can squaggates, and go here targets. Nan the new way he what nishini start again your tongue and hung what they go up. And down to Guadi, no one banayard, ne Nevado, na gaining with Dagi, had to hear Kiono. And ne oi Huana, so that had the wine ducko, ne was on good drops with you, ne aso, Nandanian doctor gates, or the wine stone gates, so that had the wine ducko. To Dean Honda with duck scano, I go drops with you, her gates, took to hand ne to Dean Honda with duck scano, Hong Guantonio, Quachi Yakio, ne Hekaguego. And down and what the one no need, deity no hino, Kinyong wadagi hatu hiak kiono negwatane sarwagon nis kanadayo nanda nyowe hewat nishini start again yotong na hongwa nigoha and down tagwadi na wadwanaya ne how ha ke kong yake hanjo ne songwa yidison and down ne was oi hoana sa hoda hai wind ko and down ne ason nanda nyon doktagis ne hawe on ayong gwenyo hong hatu nishage hatu sundage gwato ayong gwenyo hong ne jongwe tatson ne tiong ko hengis na saniot ga hadani dawsha to din hon da wetag jongwe tatson hayago dra suyo hagis ne gwatani scano hongwan tonyo henda ne gwasong yowe sat ason songwadri wano kwak ne gwatani songwano hongkwa henda hona hendwa diwayano ni ona ndwa diwayano ne ndwa diwayano ni atsadwan honyo kau yake hanjo ne hongwayan taw na ndanyo we hiwat ni shini start again yutong na ni hongwa ni goha and down ito nagat kwini ike agayage tak na ohando kay wadeko and down ne ongway hwaniga ni na scano swatay sanyo ni se kaduga awado ongwa ni goha na to hongwe wat ni shade ta to di ni yotong na ni hongwa ni goha danito. And so I just acknowledged everything that was acknowledged everybody to have a good mind and use kind words while you are all having your gathering here today. And we also send our greetings to everything that's on the earth when we look outside out the windows. And I noticed there ain't no windows in here, but you know, it's to hear the laughter. That's what brings the good feelings. And make sure you all have a good. There it is. Yeah, there it is. So, nyawa, tani ho.
Just going to close it for the webcast, so take a look.
Nyaogoa. Good morning again. My name is Feather Miracle. I am the CEO of the Six Nations Public Library. I am also here. I sat on the Ontario Museums Association on the programming committee. So again, thank you all very, very much for making the trip to come to this conference. I think it's been very, very successful. I heard last night that the karaoke was quite riotous. This morning, I would like to welcome Thanh Sinden, who is an independent museum consultant and a board member of the Museum Detox Steering Committee, where she champions fair representation and inclusion of Black, Asian, and minority ethnic cultural, intellectual, and creative contributions of past and present. Her full biography can be found on the conference app and the OMA website. Instructions on how to download the app can be found in the program. So welcome to the stage. Sorry.
Hello everyone, thank you to the OMA for having me here. It's been a real privilege. This is my first time in Canada, so it's been a real privilege to talk to colleagues from this side of the world and find out about museums in your context. A little bit about me before I start talking about Museum Detox. I'm Thanh Sinden, and my full name is Thanh, which means Pure Blue River. I'm Vietnamese British, and I work as an arts and museum consultant in the UK. I work with teams around embedding equality, diversity and inclusion and their strategic plans to progress that. I work with groups and organisations around participatory practice, audience development, And some of my clients has included the Museum Association in the UK, Tate, British Council, predominantly working around increasing diversity and equality and inclusion in museums. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to talk about Museum Detox now. So Museum Detox. It's not jumping. Not moving to the next slide. Oh. Okay. So Museum Detox is a network for Black, Asian and minority ethnic workers in the sector. And we came about 5 years ago in 2014. A group of us came together really to kind of talk about, instigated by our founder, Sarah Wajid, with a few other co-founders. They kind of met to really to detox, to talk about the challenges and issues that they faced as a person of colour working in institutions, trying to raise issues around diversity in the workforce, diversity in audiences, better representation of Black and Asian and minority ethnic stories in collections, and the topic of colonial and empire. And finding that they were on the back foot a lot, often with conversations, feeling quite marginalised with their voices, feeling quite isolated. So they didn't really know each other, kind of knew of each other, but didn't know each other, and kind of met socially for a couple of years. Word of mouth got out, a few more people were invited, and it kind of grew informally, socially, as a place to detox, to kind of show solidarity to each other and support each other in their various challenges that they face in the institution. And after a little while, a couple of years of this, they thought, well, actually, what can we do to change this? Because it's very good to kind of come and detox and have a bit of a rant, but actually, what's going to change? And it was like, well, actually, let's pin down what the problem is. And the problem is the lack of inclusivity and the legacy of racism and institutional discrimination in our cultural institutions. It's mirrored in biased narratives that fail to reflect the authentic experiences and history of the UK's diverse population. And it manifests itself in a lack of representation in Black and Asian and minority ethnic workers in the workforce, especially in senior leadership and board levels. Often there's a fundamental failure to address this and to do it with integrity. And so we thought, actually, how can we galvanise and do something about this? So Museum Detox, through kind of word of mouth, gathered together and did a flash mob at the Museum of London, just to say, hey, we're here, we exist in the museums, and these are the issues that we want to raise, that we want to talk about, that we want to do something about. And that really that was covered by national newspapers, really picked that up, and talked about the lack of diversity in our cultural institutions. And that really sort of put Museum Detox from sort of more underground, right under the radar, to kind of, hey, we're here. And then from there, it sort of led to other events and activities that we did, and a bit more kind of organisation around our kind of advocacy and campaigning platform. And we strive to achieve fair representation and inclusion by using 3 strategies. We affect organisational change in cultural institutions, and that's through empowering individuals in the organisation to raise the conversation about their equality, diversity, inclusion action plan, what's been done, interpretation, audience development, questions about this across the board, and lobbying and campaigning for policy change. building our political voice, very much as a collective. We amplify our voice around these concerns, and staying resilient and succeeding through solidarity, really supporting each other, empowering each other to take the space, and peer mentoring, amplifying each other, reinforcing the message, and really being that shoulder to kind of, and that ear to listen to. Our impact has been around sort of campaigning, like the flash mob that I was talking about, the white privilege clinic tests intervention at the Museums Association. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Various members turn up at debates. We've got members representing different specialisms from natural history to archaeology to archives, libraries, and we show up and we turn up and we talk about the issues that matter to us and are relevant to us as workers, and as well as representative of audiences and stories that we kind of want to tell more of. And then we lobby the Museums Association and the cultural networks that we belong to, and connect, really build connection, build the networks across the museums sector, and grow, find out more actually, how many more of us are across the network, so that we're not feeling alone in our institutions. Support BAME career progression and leadership, organising around the steering committee, and having subcommittees, so specialist committees around curatorial issues. We've just set up an archaeological one, looking at the archaeological field. Advocate for BAME audiences, connect, mentor and coach, like I said before, help recruit as well, and promote diversity and inclusion principles across the board. Some pictures of some detoxers, we call them detoxers, activities, and in the far right is a tour at the British Museum. Quite often we meet socially at a place, a venue that somebody works at, a museum detoxer works at, and they will give us a tour and talk about, I guess, the stories that are not on display, and what is relevant to them. So quite often objects are sort of displayed with very little context, very little story about why they're there, where they're from, like the sort of real story. These sort of people who organise will give a bit more of the story behind things. And actually, it's some of the detoxers have set up their own tours, like Black History tours, in the Natural History Museum, and that's been really popular. LGBTQ plus tours, stories around objects at the V&A, and that's really sort of taken off. Down at the bottom, right, left, depending which screen you're looking at, is Shah Hussain, who was the instigator for the White Privilege Clinic, and we worked as a team on that. I was one of the members of the team that worked on that intervention, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. Sarah Wajid, the bottom there, campaigning, don't know, something along the lines that I'm talking about. And it's a picture of a group of us, some of our founding members there, Chandra Shakespeare and Miranda Lowe, with the Mayor of London. Just highlighting a couple of detoxers' work, as sort of me talking to audiences, probably, like similar to this, about the work that we do. And Museums Are Not Neutral, at the top that's Sahadra Das is wearing, and Miranda Lowe. Just wanted to highlight their work. So they work in different institutions in the science field. Miranda works at the Natural History Museum, and Sahadra works at UCL. And they came together because of their common interest in looking at the colonial history and the decolonial aspect of science and racism in science. And they came together and wrote this paper and published it called Nature Read in Black and White, Decolonial Approaches to Interpreting Natural History Collections. And it's just such an insight into the stories encoded, and quite often the labour and the work that's been put in by either Indigenous or native knowledge or black enslaved people, helping in the collectors, helping researchers, and their stories are not told or represented in terms of the knowledge production. And also how the categorization of natural history and science, how it reinforces that hierarchy and the inequality that sort of really replicates that colonial structure, and really sort of uncovering around that and displaying, writing the fuller story, but also changing some of the language that is used. I'm going to show you a video that would sort of encapsulate a little bit more about Museum Detox. Hopefully this works.
Museum Detox is a dynamic network for people who are Black, Asian and minority ethnic who work across the museum sector. We come from a range of different spaces, so lots of us work in museums specifically, but we also work in galleries, libraries and archives. We came together because we wanted to have some positive change in our sector, and for us it's all about change. We want to be part of the conversation. We want this network to be part of the solution. This is our first collaborative event with the V&A. We're absolutely delighted to have been working with Janet Brown, and for us, what better way to frame it than around strength, power and resilience.
The V&A has a small but significant programme of African heritage public events. Its aim is to open up the museum's collections and their hidden histories with a view to democratising the narratives that are told across the mainstream. But what of those staff who work in these heritage institutions, and who can they turn to when they find that they are the only one in the room? Museum Detox Collaborates is a new opportunity to openly discuss and face issues that so often block our progress. We find a collective inner strength that is supportive and empowers each other.
If you identify as being Black, Asian or minority ethnic and you want to join Museum Detox, full details are on our website. If you visit us and put your details in the contact form, we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
So that's one of the very first collaborative events that we did. Like I said before, we met sort of more socially as a network, and that was kind of like a one where we opened up to public and peers to come see what a Museum Detox social looks like. We'll talk a little bit about one of our very successful intervention that really, I guess, raised the full awareness of what Museum Detox was about and the conversation that we wanted to have, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it is. And that is the White Privilege Clinic Test intervention at the Museums Association conference in 2017 in Manchester. We just had this idea of doing this test, and then we kind of grew it into like a more playful clinic sort of intervention. It was a place where you can come and take your white privilege test, which is a test of 26 questions, ask quite straightforward basic questions around sort of everyday life and the things that you sort of have to or not have to think about. And then you're sort of scored along that, and then you then talk to a consultant, clinician, however you want to put it, to one of us, and we then discuss, kind of your results and your kind of thinking around that, really, what it sort of brought about in terms of taking the test. People then go away with a prescription, which sort of prescribes how you would handle your level of white privilege and what you would do about it. We'll give you some pills to take, and you can write down an action that you would do, basically. make a difference. So some of the part of the discussion would be to talk about actually very honestly reflecting where are you on the on the scale of being an ally. Hopefully not in the red area, because that would have been a bit worrying for us as people that had to sort of talk to you. But most people were kind of in the middle range, sort of honestly reflecting, sort of, wanting to be moving further up. And what does, being an ally mean in helping to creating change? We won an award for the intervention. It was hugely popular. We saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over the 2 days. There was always queues of people who wanted to come and have their white privilege diagnosed. Lots of it gave us empowerment and confidence, because actually we thought, okay, the sector is ready to have this conversation, even though it's difficult, even though it's uncomfortable. No one sort of really wants it to be brought up, but at the same time, okay, let's boldly and bravely go towards this now and tackle the issues that actually are facing us if we are going to make a change. So we were very pleased to win the award, and it kind of gave us another spring in our step to kind of move forward with our mission. Time for another video.
The museums, so getting them to understand what that privilege looks like and how it might affect their navigation within their role and within the sector. So we just ask you to take the test, and then we can have a bit of an informal chat after.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. A couple of the questions where I can be sure that when told about our national heritage or about civilization, I'm shown that people of my colour made it what it is. Another one, I can count on my skin colour not to work against the appearance of my financial reliability.
How did you find the test? Were there any questions that you found slightly uncomfortable or to answer?
Some of them made me, the answers made me feel uncomfortable, because it made me reflect on what a privilege, how I completely take for granted some of the issues that are, or some of the blocks or barriers that people of colour encounter that I don't think about. And I would consider myself, as many in the museum profession would, liberal, non-racist and all that sort of thing, but it reminded me that racism is ingrained into the fabric of our culture, and therefore the taken for granted are the things that need surfacing. And it's very good in doing that.
I think that's the point. I think it's about bringing things to the conscious level. So once you're aware of that privilege and you know that, for example, the way you navigate a museum space, for example, it's very different to how someone of colour may navigate that space. What do you now do with that privilege, and how do you affect change with that? So it can be from you having a conversation at work, and a lot of people aren't open to having those conversations within the workplace, which is understandable because they may not understand what white privilege is as a concept and how it looks and how it moves and how it works. But how can you now go on to be an active agent of change?
No, I can see that. That's been really useful. If I can get hold of a copy.
Yes, you can have a copy. Bring back with you.
I can take this to the Manchester Museum and the Whitworth, which is what I have some charge over. Okay, good to meet you. Right,
Thank you,
cheers.
really good to meet you.
Well, it was very interesting because the questions were pretty straightforward, and most of them I could answer very easily. And the effect was the answers made me feel very uncomfortable. And they really surfaced for me how there are so many taken for granted within our culture about the natural way in which people of a white background just swim with the tide effortlessly and don't have to think about what is, to people of other races, a privilege that they often have to swim against. So it was simply that, and the realization that this is something I ought to take to all of my workplace for us to have a collective discussion about.
So yeah, that's the white privilege clinic test, which really looked at how we as a network address a systemic issue in our sector. And another major thing that we kind of talk about and champion is decolonizing museums. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight was how it's still something that, even though in academia, in kind of wider society, decolonization has been a thought process that's been added to, been gained more a critical thought and conversations around. In museums, it was still really something that we were kind of all the places to have a conversation about was still difficult. And it was kind of demonstrated through an article that was written by the director of V&A, Tristram Hunt, about decolonizing museums and how that decontextualized everything in the museum context. It sort of also quoted Museum Detox and the work that we did, and sort of misplaced some of that understanding. So we then responded with a thread, really to kind of say what decolonization is, and to kind of really raise the conversation on why it's so important and why it's really important to us to be looking at decolonization, really understanding what that is in museums, because it's about how embedded the legacy of colonization is in our society, and in museums and in cultural institutions, which are, the sort of it's all the spoils of empires kind of ended up there. And that is not just purely about restitution, repatriation, even though that's a very hugely important part of decolonization. It's about the culture, really breaking that down, and disrupting that norms and the status quo, and looking at the practices and policies, holding a mirror up really, and to kind of also do that internal reflection to decolonize our minds, because we are products of our own environment. So we advocate anti-racism practice. We challenge the structures that keep that power to white people. And what I mean by that is that it's sort of the centralization, the centering of whiteness and white stories and representation throughout, and appropriation of other cultures. And then that sort of misrepresentation or very tokenistic, marginalized storytelling of that, with the missing links of empire and displacements of people. So we campaign that is really a social justice issue, the inequality that it affects us all as a society. We all lose out on it, really. Majority of us lose out on it. It's a sliding scale. And to present the other truths, those missing links. And that decolonization is a rehumanizing process for people of colour. And how that brings about the relevance of people in the 21st century, and the effect of colonialism that's of the British Empire that's not taught in schools. It's a people-centred approach. It's about sharing power. It's about promoting inclusion and belonging of people of colour in the Western countries and the global world. So keep calm and carry on. Fast forward to now, we've kind of been going for 5 years, 2 years sort of more underground, I would say, and really, because I have more of a public profile in the last 3 years, and thinking forward in terms of what is it that we want to kind of achieve in terms of our mission going forward, and how do we now use our platform and also our network of 400 people to galvanise around more change and further change, because the conversations really in many areas are just beginning. That's a picture of us gathering for our 5th birthday socials. And that's around kind of being a lot more strategic in where we're going to focus our energy, what is, looking at the problem again, and what is the super impact, the super change that we're going to make, that sort of theory of change model. So that involves us organising a little bit more, having a committee, which I chair, and looking at our different roles and things that we need to do, how we're going to kind of resource that, running the administration of the network, all the sort of everyday stuff, and how we represent Museum Detox, the sort of services and developments, because really we want it to be a very supportive, safe space for all of our members, and that's the most important thing to us. That's why we came together, because there was a need for something like our network for people like me. And so, how to kind of, we make change, use our energy collectively to make change, but effectively to kind of build our resilience and support one another to do that, and not kind of us being another resource that gets burnt out trying to make change in the sector. It's really actually the sector looking to support networks and grassroots organisations like us and people like us that are, kind of really, we're doing, we're a volunteer-led organisation. This is a challenge that we have. We all do this on top of our day jobs, and we do this because, we're passionate about the change that needs to take place. So we've been quite fortunate that we've had a lot of good allies and good support and goodwill in the sector, helping us develop and securing a small bit of capacity funding to do that. And looking ahead, we were still working through this. We're in a period of planning and looking at what does it look like going forward. How do we break down dismantling colonial and racist infrastructures within the cultural institutions, and our mission to champion diversity, inclusion and fairness, and through collaboration, because really we're in this together. It benefits us all, and promote social justice and our values. Expressing and living those values. And so I just wanted to kind of read to you a couple of quotes from a couple of our members, our sort of younger members in the network, and what it means to them. So this is Antonio's quote. A movement of change and a lifeline to many, Museum Detox is a DIY volunteer-run network for people of colour working in heritage. It's since its founding, it's now 400 plus members strong and a critical mass to be reckoned with. It's been a home for me, a place to seek support, get advice, and just feel connected. Asana's quote, it's heartwarming to be part of a network where you're encouraged to be unapologetic about taking up space in a sector. Museums are built on white privilege and treat people of colour as a statistic. Museum Detox is a space that I don't do the mental gymnastics and has contributed positively to my personal and professional development. I've not only accessed more opportunities, but every detoxer I've come across embodies the ethos that will lift as we rise. They make me want to do better. I found myself unlearning and learning how to be a better ally and advocate for those who aren't in the room. I just kind of thinking about and talking about values, I just wanted to sort of really leave you with some questions and thoughts around what are the values driving you, in your workplace, and what are the values in your organisation. What is it that why you do what you do and the difference that you seek to make in what you do. And really to understand those values and kind of withstand challenges to that and be outstanding in living those values. That because it's, for me, it's my belief that we work in a sector that has so much power and privilege, and we can really make a difference, a positive difference to society doing that. So, thank you.
Oh, awesome. We have some time for questions, so I'll get off the stage. Anyone got questions?
Oh, there. I see. Okay. Hi, Thanh and Rhonda from the Museum of Ontario Archaeology.
Hello, hi Linda.
So, had dinner last night. So, thank you very much for this. This is a lot of work to pull something like this together. I'm curious about international. You're here for a reason. Is there anything happening over here in Canada or North America in association with the Detox?
Well, in terms of, I think in terms of what's relevant to Museum Detox is the context of colonisation in Canada and Indigenous stories, Indigenous rights, some of the things that we've talked about here. In terms of, connections, we'd love to connect with our Canadian colleagues, and help you form your own network over here. I mean, we've done that. We've sort of, our colleagues from Australia has reached out to us. We sort of help with, how we sort of got about setting up and some of the things that we've done, shared some of that learning and knowledge, and again in Europe. So, yeah, just anyone get in touch with Museum Detox. We're a really friendly bunch, and we'll, help out.
Hi, thank you for that presentation. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
On your slide regarding the theory of change, I couldn't see the 3 boxes which were your impact statements. Are you able just to say what the impact outcomes are that you're hoping for from the theory of change slide?
Yeah, sure. It's a work in progress. So this sort of freaks out that. Okay. BMA professionals reach their potential. Narratives and programming in our culture institutions celebrate the artistic excellence of our shared heritage, and this is pioneered by BAME people. The audiences of our cultural institutions are reflective of contemporary society. Our super impact is our cultural institutions are inclusive and actively engage in our legacy of racism and oppression. BAME people are proportionately represented at every level, and there are many BAME people leading our cultural institutions and recognised for their contribution throughout our culture and society. Our culture is a mouthpiece for everyone in society. Cultural institutions take responsibility and act with integrity in representing diverse narratives and audiences. Anyone else? No? Anyone wants lunch? This one.
Oh.
Hi, Janet Cronick, working from Dundurn Castle in Hamilton. Can you tell us a little bit about any of the healing that you may have experienced with some of your members, or if you have any healing gatherings or practices that you do in some of those where you actually connect with the community, like the wonderful clinics that you ran as well, if you have anything like that.
Well, it's through our sort of social events, and we have many ways that Museum Detox members can reach individuals. So we have a mailing list and then subgroups of that. If it's a particular specialism, or people, it's quite sort of open. People will sort of email a topic that they want to talk about it. We have a Facebook group, close Facebook group that does that. And then through sort of that informal peer support, and also within the network, we would sort of help match people up with mentoring. It's kind of not a formal thing. It's just something that we do to sort of support each other, and anyone can kind of raise. And like I said, about protecting that space and making it a safe space for people to raise any issues or share any distress or that they're going through, any sort of discrimination that people face in their workplace, and how we support people, but kind of be sensitive around that, and then but how we use that information to help to kind of make some changes and support our colleagues around that. So, for example, I did a report, I did a research, a survey around experiences of BAME people working in the cultural sector, what it felt like to work in the institutions, whether they felt the institutions had a good sort of understanding and practice of equality, diversity, inclusion, and you know, what was their progression, what has their progression been like, and it's the result of that, which I wrote into a report, which is one of our advocacy document, really was quite alarming across the board, the experiences of people, and so while we use that as a collective tool and voice to challenge the issues that are going on, you know, it's sort of a way of people kind of being able to just say how they, anonymised, saying how they feel and what the experiences are. When we meet up socially, that's a way to detox, and well-being is a strand of something that we want to be more strategic about in supporting our network members.
Thank you. I'm Kathy, and I'm from the museum in Markham, Ontario, which is the most diverse community in Canada. I'm sitting next to Toronto, and we are more diverse than Toronto, and we're part of the civic administration. So diversity training comes from the top down, and it's very much filtered through the administration. And yet what you're talking about is the conversation that's happening at a different level, and you're talking about hurt, and you're talking about concern. And I'm wondering how you feed that information back up through administration.
Okay. Really, by things like talking about at programming things at conferences and talking about them, writing blogs about people's experiences, the advocacy document that I was talking about and the report around BAME experiences. It's instigated institutions' own research, their own need to, people then feeling more empowered to ask, why isn't this happening in our museum? Why don't we have a network? Why don't we set up a network? So, for example, after the decolonisation thread and the sort of response back to Tristram Hunt, staff from the V&A were kind of like, we need to do something about this. Our director, we need to have conversations, and they did. So last Thursday, they've started their first decolonisation reading group, just to kind of start that conversation in the museums. And this is, I guess, for us, it's kind of like we're kind of the mouthpiece for these conversations, these concerns, and kind of that collective voice instigate things to happen in organisations, and hopefully that sort of then galvanise and empower colleagues and allies, BAME colleagues and allies to make those changes. I'm working with Tate at the moment, running a We Make Change programme, which is effectively working with diverse staff who want to make change, but how do they have the skills and the knowledge and kind of feel empowered and confident in doing that, as well as remaining resilient to the burnout of trying to make change.
Hi, I'm Vanda Vitali from the Canadian Museum Association, and I just want to support the question that came a few seconds ago about healing, because you do wonderful work, and it is very important, and it's very important to recognize the hurt, the indignity, the all, but ultimately the goal is healing. The goal is, from psychology, that the first step is really recognizing the issue. But then the most important thing is healing. It's not just to recognize things. And it's not just to take this something, But where is the healing element? And what is your data and what is your work on healing that I'm interested in? Thank you.
Thanks. So with the healing aspect, like I said, this is a strand going forward that we want to understand and be better at in supporting. But it's having that conversation in the first place and having spaces where people can have the story and inherited trauma recognised, and from that we have our own meetup around sort of strength and building resilience and support. But it's also that compassion and having joy, just kind of meeting together and sort of being able to have joy in things and not kind of always be talking about the heavy stuff. And that's the healing aspect for us as a network in terms of the in terms of kind of moving forward. It's that reconciliation process. But to get us there, we kind of need to actually honestly have that engagement in the first place.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Rowan from the Centennial College's Museum and Cultural Management program. And on behalf of emerging professionals, I was wondering what kind of advice you could offer in terms of the framework of decolonization and having that type of mindset going into this industry. Thank you.
Okay. There's lots of kind of the decolonization. There's lots of papers and thoughts and thinking around this. I would say do some reading around some of the books. Why I Don't No Longer Talk to White People About Race is a good one to read. Decolonizing the Mind. Decolonizing, I've forgotten how to pronounce the author's name, but I'd be able to kind of, give you a list if it comes to me afterwards. We, the sort of Museums Association, with quite a few members from Museum Detox, have set up a decolonizing panel to look at how they develop tools and resources to support museums in decolonization. I did a talk. We helped organise a symposium earlier in the year. We've got some papers and thoughts from that as well. If you want to get in touch with me, I can send you some of those materials. Thank you.